Hi, mamas, and welcome back to another episode on the Mamas Who Brunch. I'm Jelena, your host, and today's episode is about God making something beautiful out of our lives. And this is for those that maybe grew up in church, maybe you didn't grow up in church, maybe you found the Lord through someone else, or maybe you've always known the Lord. But either way, we have to get and have a relationship with Him for ourselves. And I appreciate the Lord and His goodness and what He has done in my life. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says, He hath made everything beautiful in His time. And that's Ecclesiastes 3:11. It's not our time. It's not when we're wanting it or when we expect it. It's not when we feel like it's time for change, but it's in His time. And today I want to talk about what it looks like when God takes a life that is broken and distant or messy, and He makes it into something beautiful. Life does not always feel beautiful, and my life is still not perfect. I have a beautiful life because I have served the Lord for my entire life. And that doesn't mean going into a church building or the same church building. I have attended, I think, 4 or 5 different churches in my life. I've traveled all over the world, and I've been around many different people and cultures. And I feel so grateful to have that well-rounded viewpoint of the world. I did not grow up that way. I grew up very sheltered and very naive. I grew up in church. I was homeschooled. Growing up, we didn't have a television. I didn't have Wi-Fi until I was in college. So for the first part of my life, I had very little exposure to the outside world. I grew up reading the Bible. I grew up creating. I wrote books. I wrote poems. I was a very imaginative little girl. I would create boards and posters and put them around my room with pictures of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be in life. Before Pinterest was a thing, I would cut up magazine clippings of home designs and fashion and style, and I would put it in a shoebox and keep it under my bed. And that was my inspiration of who I wanted to be in my life. I grew up in church. I loved volleyball. I loved hanging out with my friends. I grew up writing songs and reading the scriptures, and I loved learning about doctrine even as a little kid. I felt like God had His hand on me. I knew Him. He was a part of my life. And, life happened. There were definitely some rocky experiences that I had, both with my family, both with different churches that I attended, and the Lord blessed me with a wonderful husband. I met Brandon at one of our church meetings. We were just kids when we met. I think we were like 13. He says we were like 16, but either way, we were very young. We've always been friends. When I was 22 years old, I had just graduated college. I put myself through community college. I was working as a substitute teacher at the time. I had no money. I was completely broke. I packed up my little white Lexus, my 93 Lexus. I had $300 in my bank account. And I packed my little car and I drove to Kentucky and I moved. I was 22 years old and thought that I knew so much about the world. Beautiful things happened. I got married and we started our life together. Brandon and I were blessed to travel for the last several years before we decided to have our first child. 2024, we had Sophia, December 17th. I believed in God, and I always have. I've never stopped believing that He was close by me. I've always depended on the scriptures as part of my journey with Him, and I never did feel like I walked away from God, but I definitely will tell you there's times that I drifted. There's times that I lost trust because I had a lot of trust in people, and I learned through life experiences to really depend on Him first because He does not let you down. The Lord has never let me down through anything I've been through in my life. I had a lot of really good, deep spiritual touches and blessings as a child. And I had a wonderful group of friends and still do. But those experiences, they fill you up in the moment, but really it's your core values that hold you. And it's your core experiences. I do feel like the experiences I've been through have built my faith. And I usually don't see it until years later, looking back on what the Lord's done for me. I definitely had my heart broken early on with my first boyfriend that I had. And that rocked me pretty hard because I was definitely in what I thought was love. And the Lord helped me through that experience as well. I remember before I married my husband, I remember being in the youth group wondering, what does the Lord have for my life? Like, what am I supposed to do? I don't play the piano. I don't want to be a pastor's wife. And that was part of my church culture at the time, very important, like right away, at least. I wanted to serve the Lord, but I wanted to have a big, full life. So that's what I did. I went after my career and, invested in my marriage. I went to church. I was a part of a church for about 5 years, and then we felt the Lord leading us a different direction. We went to another church, and we had some really tough experiences. I wouldn't say any of it was a waste. I think we learn through every experience that we have, and God guides us through all of those things. And everything does work together for good to those that love God and those that are called according to his purpose. There's no parts that I wish that I could erase as part of my journey. There's no season that hasn't developed me as a person, and I'm so grateful today because of what I've been through. It's made me such a stronger person, and in a lot of ways more compassionate, more loving. I'm more caring about people than I was before because I've been through experiences in life and hurts. I've been through church hurts, I've been through family hurts, I've been rejected. And I don't say that because I'm a victim, because I'm not. I'm such a victor in Christ because he strengthens me every single day. But beauty doesn't always look like it did before. And there's new versions of us, right? And I've learned that becoming a mom. When we think of God making something beautiful, we often imagine him restoring life to what it used to be. But God doesn't want us to look or take us back. He always moves us forward. Isaiah 43:18-19 says, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it?" The beauty God creates isn't always a return to the past. Sometimes it's just a deeper faith than we've ever known. It's a softer heart. It's a more honest relationship with him. It's more trust in him. God redeems us even when we don't see it. He uses people in our life to lead us and then also to show us ways of how not to be and how not to treat people. The world says that brokenness is something to hide from, but God says that the brokenness is something that he can use. Psalms 147:3 says he heals the broken heart and binds up their wounds. He doesn't avoid broken hearts. It says that he heals them. Some of the most beautiful stories in the Bible are written about people of faith. They weren't perfect. They just stayed open and they listened for God's direction. I pray for his direction constantly in my life. We're not at the end of our journey. We're still in the healing and the rebuilding process. And that's also something I definitely want you to take with you. Healing is a journey. And honestly, I hope that it never ends because I want to constantly be healed until I come to the fullness of what Christ has for me. I never want to be comfortable or content or complacent and say, you know what, I'm done. God's worked his perfect will in me until I reach that place in him. Philippians 1:6 says, "Be confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ." If he started a work in us, he will finish it. I am so grateful that God sees us and he loves us and he makes everything beautiful. What a wonderful testimony that we have in him. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a change or a big life event, it's very confusing. And you're like searching for God and expecting him to just show up and tell you exactly what to do and like line it all out for you. It doesn't feel beautiful, right? But that's when he can meet you in those situations where it is confusing and we can't see what he's doing. And from personal experience, I feel like I see God much later. Usually it's like a year or 2 years later, I can look back at that situation and I can see God's hand covering me. He can change the situation or he changes us as we move through the situation. And that really is what builds my faith in him, to see the beauty that he's created. And there are situations that he's taken me through and people he's even removed from my life that I didn't even realize until looking back and saw like he was helping me get through those periods of time. And I didn't even see it at that moment in time. And a lot of times we can't see it because we're not able to see it, right? And we have to see through faith to trust him for the future. But then looking back, that's how our faith is built, as we've watched him guide us through all those times. Growing up in church, I knew about God. I had such faith. I was so naive to so many things. And I didn't have the faith in God that he would make my life something beautiful at that time. All I knew was my bubble and what I lived in. And I was sheltered, and I appreciated that. But at the same time, life had to teach me how to trust in him, right? And I learned through pain and disappointment and real life pressures and being out in society, what that was like to trust in God. I had to find God for myself. And I think that we all have seasons like that, where maybe it's a valley that we're going through. And that's when our faith becomes real, in those moments when we're tested. In Psalms 119:71, it says, "It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes." He sees us through hardships, and he preserves us from all that is evil. Psalms 121:7-8 says, "The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore." There are seasons that I didn't even know how to pray or what to pray. I was just looking for God's guidance, and he still preserved me. He was keeping me when I didn't even know how. And there are moments that I felt like I was figuring out my life all by myself, but I wasn't. He was right there. He was guarding me and protecting me and giving me strength to take the next step. God has never let me go, and I'm so appreciative to having him in my life. I don't know what I would do without him. But what I do have is a relationship with God and a trust in him, because I have been through so many things. People have let me down. Even church people have let me down. I have moved to different churches, primarily just due to fundamental disagreements that I can't stand behind. And I couldn't, with all my conviction and my faith in God, move forward in that place where he had me. And God led me to another place. But God has kept me in those seasons. Seasons of quiet, seasons of joy, seasons of mourning. He gives beauty for our ashes. And I love that verse in Isaiah, that he gives us a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. He didn't make my life beautiful overnight, and my life is still not perfect. I'm very blessed and very grateful. And the keystone that I consider to have a beautiful life is peace, no matter what. Because if you have peace, you can go through any situation. And that to me is the pinnacle of having a beautiful life, is having peace with God. Because if you have peace with God, anything can happen to you, and you can walk forward and you can have strength and boldness, because he is right there with you, providing the peace that you need to get through the day. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not to thine own understanding, and in all ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." And I appreciate him directing me even during times that I didn't understand or even agree with what was happening. He has always directed me. So if you're listening and you're in the process of finding God for yourself, maybe you're praying for him to open or even close a door. You're not behind, you're not falling. God is with you. He has proven himself time and time again, and he is so faithful, and I'm so grateful to have him in my life. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me, and in his time he will make all things beautiful. And we can hold to that promise, and we can trust that no matter what we're going through, whether it is a hard time, a low place, maybe we feel like we're all alone, he is right there, and he is going to guide us through to the next step. I hope that you're encouraged today, and I hope that you go forward through the rest of your morning with strength, knowing that God can take your day. Maybe you've had a hard start to your day, and he can make it beautiful. Thanks for joining.